camera. Why is it?
Okay, welcome to our early career session. We just lost the speaker, but I'm sure Simon is on his way back trying to find his camera. Let's hope it doesn't take him too long. Simon, it's on top of your computer again. Hey, how are you, Simon? Fantastic, good to see you, man. Okay, welcome everybody. This is our early career session. This is one of the sessions we have always had at the Spatial Data Science Symposium, one that is very exciting and very well attended and always requested. I think we had many different ways of setting this up over the years. Last year, we set it up with early career folks running the early career session, and our feeling was that we need to provide more perspectives from people throughout the careers as we did in recent years, and I hope we achieved this time. So we have absolutely fantastic panelists with us here. Sara Fabrikant from University of Zurich is here. Did we lose somebody? No, Meiliu from University of Glasgow. She's sitting right next to me, so that's very exciting. It's going to be more interactive. Well, Simon Scheider is here with us from Utrecht University, and of course, Kathleen Stewart from University of Maryland. I would suggest that we do it like this, that I just run through some of the questions that I hope are of interest for most of you, and then please use the Q&A to ask questions. We here focused on the discussion. We may not see them, but the team backstage will then bring them to our attention. So be active, jump in, and the more we discuss, the better. And for you folks on the panel, thank you so much for joining. Keep in mind that you can also interact between you guys and not always just have to wait for my prompt, so to speak. Okay, so what motivated you to start a career in academia? And was this the plan all along? And I'm going to start with you because my suspicion is that you have the youngest career in academia.
That's what I would expect. Yeah, it's a very good question. To be honest, like when I saw this question, I would think like, what are the other options besides being an academia? And yes, I did try like working full-time in industry before I joined PhD program, and I just realized that I prefer independence and more freedoms in terms of working styles, like where and when you can start to work on research or the project that you are interested. I felt like a lot of time when you work as a staff in a, let's say, private company, a lot of time you are assigned a task instead of you have been more proactively doing the project or the topic that you are interested in. So I think that's really the tipping point that really trying to, at that time trying to switch to, back to academia. Yeah, that's the key point for me. And I would love to hear the stories from others.
Sara, should we go with you next?
Sure. Happy to. First of all, thank you very much for this very kind invite. I don't know where I would place on the line on the timeline. I'm late, mid-career, or Kathleen, what do you think? What are we?
Early to mid.
Late? Mid
Late.
late career. Anyway, thank you so much, and I'm so delighted to be on this panel together with all these well-esteemed colleagues. Some of you I know much better, and others I'm getting to know. So I failed, I guess. I'm having now the third best job, because when I was 7, I wanted to be a tramway conductor. Tramways or trams in Zurich or public transport. And then the eye doctor said, no, Sara, because of your eye conditions, you can never do this. Okay. Then at 15, I wanted to be a sports journalist. And then suddenly I woke up, I had a degree in geography, which was on a detour we will talk about later. And now I'm having this wonderful profession that I can only say what you just said earlier. Yes, having the freedom to choose, sometimes, not always, is fantastic. And yeah, so I'm handing over to my colleagues to hear more.
Kathleen, what about you?
So I took a break and worked between my master's and PhD degree. I didn't do my PhD degree until a number of years actually after getting my master's. So that was sort of my break. And then when I went into my PhD, you know, I'd had the experience of kind of being outside academia, doing other things and whatnot. And so when I started, I was really motivated about being back in academia and excited to be part of it. And I was with an exciting, you know, a group, because, you know, I have been around for a while, and this was in sort of the earlier days of GI science when things were very, very much forming. It was a very exciting time to be in the field, as it still is now. And so then once I was in a PhD program and then finished up, and I moved into a postdoc, etc. You know, by then I was sort of forming a network, colleagues, and really just loved it and just wanted to kind of stay in it, I think. So I did have my time outside prior to doing my doctorate. And if any of you out there listening have also, you know, or been thinking about going back or something like that, yes, you know, it's perfectly doable, or at least I found that it was at the time. And again, it was a different, I will say there is a little bit difference now. There were probably more faculty sort of opportunities actually back in that day. There was a demand for people in the field, and it was probably not as tight a market as it is today. So we were very fortunate, I think, at that time. That was something serendipitous at that time for us.
Simon, what about you?
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me too. I was just thinking about where I should place myself on this career line, right? So I think it's something mid-career, but I don't know where. Yeah, I was basically, the reason why I'm in academia is because so after my master, which I did in basically communication science and geography, I went to applied research. So I went to Fraunhofer Institute, which is one of the applied research institutions in Germany. And so that was a lot of fun. I was there for 6 years doing a lot of machine learning with spatial information. That's also why I was employed there. And but I was really getting frustrated with it because so we developed machine learning solutions for customers, and these solutions were pretty intransparent at the time already, pretty intransparent, and we tended to reinvent the wheel all the time for every new customer. So I was fed up because we were not able to basically get the time and work needed to understand what we were doing. So in my opinion, this should be really the focus of research, and this kind of understanding of what you're doing, right, is driving still my research interest today. So I really would like to, understand what we are modeling and for what purpose, basically.
Well, very interesting. So in your roles, you're directors of centers, recipients of major grants from the European Union and so on. But what are some key turning points around, or decision points along your journey? And maybe this time we go in reverse order just to make it extra exciting. Simon, what about you? Key turning points, key decisions you made in your career that shaped your career so far?
Yeah. So I think, I thought about this question, and in the end, I would say that there's three major things. So one is basically a decision to really move away from that applied research background. So basically also to move away from machine learning, because I've been working with machine learning for 6 years, and I was really getting frustrated. So I wanted to basically move away from there. In 2007, that was, and to work on geodata semantics. That was one of the stuff, the decisions that I took. And another one is also that my decision to stay in Europe and not go to the US, because I was at the time, so after my PhD, there was an option to go there, and I had, I was thinking a lot about what I should do now, in which context, in which research context I would like to, work, and I think I'm happy to have stayed in Europe, I have to say. And then another one is actually also, I would say that I decided at some point not to follow the quickest career path. I mean, already at the start, because I was actually really spending 6 years on this applied research, which I could have, of course, much more efficiently used to basically climb up the career ladder, but I didn't do this. And I also later on I didn't follow the most quickest path.
Kathleen.
Yeah, so also I think place, when I had an opportunity to come to I am based in the United States. For those that don't know me, I'm at the University of Maryland, so we're like our campus is just a few miles from the White House in Washington, D.C. And the opportunity to be in the Washington, D.C. area, I had been coming for years to attend meetings, and I always really liked the city. If you ever get the opportunity to visit, you haven't been, I recommend it. It's a great city to visit, I think. And so the opportunity to come here and be in this area that has some unique characteristics, mainly that there are many federal agencies located here and a lot sort of happening on the geospatial side and on the research side. And I think that has been really interesting, and I'm glad that I sort of followed up. So that was a change in position. So taking advantage of that opportunity. I think place is important, like, where you work, your colleagues, the whole setup, the setting. It is really, it does make a difference to how, happy and satisfied I think you are with your position. So, if you want to be in a certain place, you should try for that. I would recommend, because it will really make you happy, I think, in the long run.
Very well said, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm now third, because I want to pick up on having heard a couple of words. Like Kathleen, you said serendipity. I think that's, a super important word, meaning, that you can plan as much as you want and things will happen. But you do have decisions. And I loved what you said, Simon, having a decision not to go someplace and not regretting it. So in my case, it was exactly the opposite. I was not joking about the sports journalist. So I thought that I will be becoming a journalist, and I started studying history and mass media communication. And then I realized, that's not for me, spending my life in a dusty, because I'm allergic to dust, in a dusty archive, as historians would do, let's say. And so communication science was also part of my sort of development. And then I realized, oh no, I want to do something completely different, because I discovered this history from my history degree, my history of cartography. And I was like, oh, cartography, how cool is that? And so being able to leave, having just had opportunities to go and learn English as a high school student, and then saying, oh, there's this country called New Zealand, and they speak also English there. I can't understand the word, but that's really fascinating as a place. I want to go there when I grow up. So I just decided during my studies, then when I moved to geography, which I thought was way cooler than history, to just go to New Zealand and try to figure out how I could do this, getting funding. And I managed, it's a long story, but anyway, so I went there. And I think that was a turning point in terms of going to a place, discovering all this cool research being done there at the University Christchurch, New Zealand. Think up, this is where the GI Science Conference is going to be, exactly there. That's where I went. And then another turning point is finishing my master's degree and not wanting to go to a coding job, because I could do code in Avenue. No one knows what that is, but nevertheless, Avenue was this language you use to code in one of the products of ESRI, not available anymore. But anyway, so I could get all these jobs, but I didn't want to do this. And then one of my, someone offered a job at the University of Basel, an academic job, and sort of a PhD position. And then I said, oh, but I really want to go to the US. And then she's like, you know what? You have to go to the US. If you have a chance and you get this possibility, then just do it. forget my job. And so then I ended up in the US for a PhD position in Boulder, Colorado. And I think that was a really important turning point. I didn't know then, but we will talk about this later on when we talk, I think, maybe about networks. How if you think you're not on a network, you are, even if you don't think you are. And so this kind of idea that people know each other and places that become suddenly opportunities because you got a degree from somewhere. And so this turning point, you know, having this opportunity from this professor in Basel who had been in the US herself, who had returned to Europe, that was a turning point. So location, serendipity, but then having decisions that one can make and should make and not being afraid of it. So I think that's, and this GIS thing, I wanted to come back to you, Kathleen. You said 30 years ago was a very, very different time. Actually, 35, 40 years ago when I started to study, GIS was not a big thing. But now it is. Now it's called something, whatever you want, spatial data science, analytics, whatever. But then there were very, very few. And it so happens I was born in a city where the first GIS chair was actually established in Europe. I mean, mainland Europe, not England. And this was, you know, serendipity.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Well, very interesting stories from all of the three previous speakers. I think mine is like, because I just fresh, you know, graduated this year and then jumped to my first year being faculty. So I still really remember like how was like to be a, let's say, the first time you wrote a research paper, like a thesis as master students. And that gave me a feeling that I don't hate it. And then moving to another feeling is I started to feel I am good at it when I first presented my research at a conference. And then I received a lot of, you know, positive feedback about like my research ideas, and then people engage with me how I can continue this research direction. And then they also commented on my, you know, research writing when I started to have collaborations with others. So then I have the confidence to continue, right? And lastly, like during the recent years, I moving to another feeling. That's the third and final feeling now I have is I enjoy doing it. Like from good at to enjoy. It's a big change to me. Like it's not just about myself anymore. I enjoy doing it because I feel like this academic career gives me a lot of experience about people working. Like it's a teamwork, and whenever you have a project, you work with peers, you work with students, you work with very senior faculty as well. So you always meet new scholars and they will come up with new ideas together. And it's a mutual learning journey to me. And I can see a lot of possibilities in the future to shape my career development. So yeah, I'm enjoy doing it. So that's my 3 tipping points, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that was a fantastic overview. One thing, if I may paraphrase all of you, that came through in what everybody said was being open to opportunities. And that's such an important thing, I believe. And I believe that Kathleen said this so nicely with the increased pressure on early career scientists now. I feel that too many of us, especially the newcomers, feel that a career is like running up a ladder. Even if you don't know where you're running, just keep running, right? Because you want to be first, you want to be strongest. Everything is, you know, like optimized towards the goal, and maybe you haven't quite defined the goal yet, because things happen in your life and you need to be open to these opportunities. For instance, my turning point was when I was invited by my good child to a specialist meeting in Santa Barbara on gazetteers. Changed my entire life. I fell madly in love with the United States and stayed there for 12 years, right? And so be open to opportunities would be my take-home message. Just to make it extra fancy here, we are going to do the diagonal now. And the question is about mentorship, right? So what are your thoughts on the role of mentorship, either you being mentors to other people or you having found mentors, and if you benefited from mentors, and Sara mentioned this already a couple of minutes ago, how did you go about finding them? Sara, should we start with you and then go to Kathleen?
Yeah, I think that's, I cannot emphasize more how, and I'm glad it's on your list, how mentors, we think we do studies, we write papers and master's thesis, PhDs and so on, but how important mentors are. And they don't have to necessarily be, of course, they may also be your direct supervisors, PhD, master's advisors, but they can be really anyone. And I think really it can be as serendipitous as meeting a person at a conference who's changing your perspective, and where you can have actually a chat over whatever your favorite drink is, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, whatever, but did you have like this access to a human being and being able to talk? So I think mentorships are super important. It's so important that our department, for example, really sort of fosters it as almost not as a requirement, but as like, we actively as a department want people, the early career scientists, to seek out mentors. And they don't have to be in the department. They can be anywhere they want, but then really having sort of being courageous, approaching these people and striking up a sort of an agreement, like a mentorship agreement. So this is a more formal thing, but so I think mentorship, for myself, I have experienced it through many ways. And especially because, we will be talking maybe about imposter syndromes and things like that. That's really important if you are afflicted by that. And I don't believe if there's someone not afflicted by that, at least I am, mentors really can help. And so be brave, go out and seek mentors, and they may be in a sports team that you played in, or your favorite academic, or the person you read a paper about, you just meet in a hallway at AEG with 3,000 other people. So you get an elevator and go and talk to them. Be brave. Go and talk to people you inspire you. And again, I say it doesn't have to be an academic, but it of course helps if it is, if this she or he is. So I cannot only, for me, this was sort of decisive, having people that I trust in some way, or trusted in some way, to give me advice. And advice meaning not, oh, you should be doing this or that, but having me think, what is the decision you would take now? Giving me opportunities to think about which decision that there are actually that I should take or can take. So I think that's a super important topic. So yes, and I would like also in this case, give back, and I have been always giving back, in the sense if people have asked me, I have willingly engaged in these opportunities.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kathleen.
I think well said, Sara. Those are great. I would agree with all of those points. We too. So when you're kind of weighing up different departments, if you have a choice on positions, etc., you could ask about what they do for mentoring, and a position that offers a kind of mentoring program, or has been thinking about mentoring and how important it is, because it is really important. And our department also has a kind of formal mentoring program, and we actually rotate mentors every year at the moment, and kind of shuffle around. And I think that's really good too, to give early career scientists an opportunity to hear from different faculty and other faculty over their time. And so yes, so having that opportunity, then the informal mentoring, as Sara described, absolutely. There's usually someone that you've kind of got your eye on, that you admire, or you're interested in what they do, and you might notice what they do. And if you can meet them and have a coffee or whatever, try to have a conversation. I mean, these can be very, very helpful, and like seeking out. And we all, I think most would be very open to that. So you shouldn't feel shy about approaching somebody, because they'll say, sure, happy to chat about that, happy to talk to you about that. And if you're wondering, but having a mentor is really helpful. And I think we're we still have some ways to go on this through all different levels as you progress in your career. Mentoring sometimes is a little uneven, but definitely seek it out. If you feel like you're not being well mentored, you know, try to seek that out if you can, because it really makes a difference and it's just so important.
So to complete the X that we're building here, what about you?
Yeah, so I totally agree that mentorship is so important. I would say without my advisor, I won't be here. I won't be faculty, to be honest. And I felt like it's about how to shape, just my case, how to shape me into an independent scholar is the really something that I gained from my mentor. It's like first, you need to communicate well with your mentor. What is your goal? As long as like the other side knows you better, then they can help you better. That's something I learned well. So at the first day when I started my PhD program, I know I want to stay in academia. So all my committee members and my mentors, they will just help with their resources. They know, like, for example, how to prepare job interviews, how to prepare your job tasks, things like this. So it could be go really detailed, but it could be like a bigger picture, like how to shape your research frameworks in, let's say, 5 years. So I feel like you have to be prepared with good questions, and you have to be communicative so that you have a mutual understanding. They know how to help you, and you know yourself what you need. Yeah. So that's what I would share, like some advice if people are confusing now. Yeah.
Simon.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that. So also for me, mentors were really important. Basically, my first mentors were Natalia and Gennady Andrenko, who actually are working on, you know, these fancy interactive visualizations. And I just wanted to, you know, just very quickly tell an episode, because, you know, that was actually the start of me becoming interested in this whole stuff. Is they just showed me actually a visualization and asked me my opinion about. They wanted to actually, you know, use that that interactive graph or whatever for a certain purpose, and they asked me whether it's doing its job, so whether it's really good. And I didn't think it was very good, so I actually criticized it, and that, you know, that initiated this whole thing, right? They got interested by just being interested in my opinion about something, right? And my critical opinion, right? And that basically continued, and that somehow initiated this mentorship relationship. So what I want to say here is, I think for me the most important thing is not, you know, mentors telling you what to do, but rather, you know, being interested in what you have to say. That's the most important thing for me, and that has actually continued. You know, I mean, with Werner Kuhn at IFGI and various other people around me that were just basically really interested in what I have to say. I think that should be the role of a mentor.
Very, very well said, and of course, Werner Kuhn is exactly such a person, right? I think the important about the difference between a coach and a mentor, and these days I think we want to force everything, right? Everybody should have a mentor and maybe rotate them every 3 months, or I don't know. This is not the trust relation that you build. A mentor, I think, is somebody who puts you first and your interests first and is interested in your thoughts, just as you guys described. And I think this role of a mentor is incredibly powerful throughout all career stages. I had mentors in my time in industry, I had mentors in my time in academia, and to this day, I very often search out opinion of folks, and the mentor is not always somebody who is ahead of you in your career stage. It's a critical resource, a sounding board, somebody who is, you know, as patient as ChatGPT, but actually even a little bit smarter. That's what I hope. So what about networking, right? We already discussed this a little bit, so I think I'm going to let Sara start on that because she mentioned this explicitly. You said, Sara, that we are already in networks whether we like it or not, right? And us building networks, right? Tell us a little bit about your networks.
You know, it's really, you know, people like again, I wanted to say what Kathleen said. 30 years ago, everything was really completely different. Everybody says that, but no, it's really true, especially for GI or SDS or whatever, you know. So there were these, I mean, we are in a field where we still know, as most of them are now retired or are retiring, but we still know sort of the elders, the founders of the field. Yeah, I mean, my predecessor, where, you know, in my department, he was the first GIS chair. I know him. He comes to the department colloquium, you know, regularly. So I know him for a long time, and I still know him. So what I mean is we have a young field, and especially in the young field, when it so happens you are, you know, I was born in Zurich. I grew up in Zurich. I went to of course, as Switzerland, as if you don't know, it's tiny, very few universities, very few people in academia in relationship to or studying actually in the relationship to the population. So it's super small, and it so happens that, you know, you are there at this university and you have GIS classes. We are talking late 80s, early 90s, where maybe nowhere else in the world, or very few places in the world, had GIS classes. And suddenly you realize, and maybe even the class, you know, the professor is like far away, as in Swiss society, the professors is like totally removed. You're kind of far away, no idea. You know them only as an undergraduate student, the person lecturing. And suddenly you develop your ideas, you get sort of doing more things in this area, you are getting a master's, you're thinking of a PhD, and it's like, I'm going to leave and seek my fortune elsewhere, you know, in the new continent. And then you think no one knows you, but they do know you. Even if they don't know you, it's like, she's applying from Zurich. Oh, she got her master's with X, Y, and Z. And this X, Y, and Z is part of a network, and you don't even know. And then you go there like, so the so-and-so, right? Oh yeah, beers with them at the recent conference, this and that, and the other thing. So you don't realize even that you're not on a network, you actually are. And in many ways, it's kind of a problem, because if you're not part of this so happens network that is a good network that helps you in this particular field, you don't realize, why am I not getting into this interview? Why am I not, right? It can be a disadvantage. I really, in my case, not knowing anything, doing the most naive things from a career, not knowing, stumbling from here and there, not realizing that in fact, everything was laid out for me, right? Because it so happens I was already in this GI science community, even though I had no idea really what this was, because, this lecturer, yes, I took a class from them, yes, sure. Wasn't maybe not a very good class, who knows, right? But then suddenly you are sort of part of this network. So what I want to say today, people spend a lot of time and effort and energy in the universities, my department, our university, to help people network, to tell them how important it is. And yes, it is important in good ways, but also I have to say in not so good ways, because if you're not part of this kind of network, then it's harder. It really is. And so therefore, what can I say? Create it, make it your own. Go and participate, go and do these things that help you network. It needs courage. It needs a little bit out of comfort zone, but I think it's really worth it. And you can create your own. That's the other piece of information. If the network you're on is not kind of the one that you want, create your own, you know, go out and do it. And I think that was important to realize. So I benefited, I have to say, greatly from this network.
Meiliu, what about you?
Yeah, well, really at early career stage, I feel like this networking is so important in all aspects for career development. I feel like, for example, now, like, let's say I'm submitting my first grant, I need to know like who I can collaborate with. So from where? So I need to know people first, and then so that I can identify potential collaboration. Even just for discussing a new idea, you need someone from different backgrounds to give you a new input. So yeah, I think it's just so important in all aspects. And I think for me now, growing my own network, it could be as simple as just shooting a person that I'm interested in an email and then discussing whether we can chat over coffee, things like this. Or you can, like me doing now, showing up at a conference or seminar or workshops, showing up and then like let people know what you are doing so that they, again, like know if you need something, then they might be able to pass you some people's contact or even pass you the resources you need. So yeah, it's very good. And also now I'm also like defining network, not just in academia. It's also like maybe it will be better to have industrial or even government networks because they have different perspectives. Like when they talk about practice and when they talk about innovation, maybe from different perspective, like making money, for example. So it's, yeah, it's just different and bringing a lot of new thoughts to me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Kathleen.
Yeah, these are great points. And I definitely agree with all of them. What I see with my students is they probably get their start with, well, I mean, it starts small in the department and amongst other graduate students and kind of because that's your peer group. And now we have like LinkedIn. LinkedIn was not available back in the day, but we can link, there's all social media and ways of kind of linking. So we have sort of our virtual networks and our own sort of action, in-person networks. So in person in the department every day, you're with your fellow students and you're maybe putting on activities and doing talks. Like we have the hubs for this symposium, and giving a conference presentation, and even going one step further, organizing a session at a conference. And then the conference organizers will ask you the next year if you'd like to do your session again. And hey, you're up and running. People submit papers to your session and you become known and things really grow. Taking a seat on some organizations like the AAG, for example, has boards for different specialty groups, and you could, have a position on that board as a graduate student position, and it's a great way of getting yourself sort of out there. So, in person, so there's the kind of in-person presentations, and those or any sort of activity. Maybe your department is going to have an activity where they have an open house on campus and other folks on campus are going to come and you can participate in that. And this is all network building. And it kind of does go a little bit hand in hand with the mentoring as well. Often, your mentor, well, may or may not be, but could likely be in that same network. Networks have definitely helped me. I have definitely benefited from especially going back to my early career days, would kind of roll along with a network. I would be invited to be part of something. And that's so helpful, to be invited. And so you want to, take advantage. You want to say yes more than you say no. Say yes as much as you can, and agree to participate in things. We all have kind of crazy schedules. You have to make time to do these things and kind of build your network. And it's very interesting now with LinkedIn and all of these kind of mechanisms, because you have an opportunity to see what others are doing in a way that wasn't available in the past. And this is very helpful, I think, to see, comments. You can be connected to hundreds and hundreds of people, and maybe there's a small subset of that, which is really kind of an active part of your network. But you will be able to see kind of what others are doing and decide whether that's also something you might be interested in doing, kind of following suit. But they're, connecting to others, having those connections, super important. Also makes it a lot more fun. It's fun to be part of a network. It's fun to be part of a, connecting with people, connecting with others, and doing these kind of activities.
Simon, what about you?
Yeah, so just wanted to add to this that, of course, networks are really essential. I'm not a master of them, so I can't really. So just like Sarah, I was just pushed into it, and basically it was provided to me by these peers. And I just wanted to mention that I think that physical conferences, as opposed to online conferences, are really essential. I think to foster, and just to have this episode out. The way how I got to know Werner Kuhn was I was by chance sitting next to him in the bus that went from the hotel in Denmark at Agile 2007 in Denmark to the conference venue, and we actually had a first chat about, I think, road networks or something like that, and that actually completely changed my career. So and I didn't influence that. I didn't voluntarily try to push that. I was just by chance sitting there, right? So I think this is really important. And this kind of I know that there's these in management seminars or whatever, they're teaching you that you should actively expand your network. I've never done that. I don't know whether that's because I'm not good at it, or maybe that's stupid. I don't know, but I've never done that.
Yeah, I do recall when Werner came back from that bus ride that we learned all about you, having not yet met you. But there's a couple of very important things that have been said. So, my role is going to be the paraphrase, and keep me honest if I misparaphrase. But I think the offline setting, the travel, this is key, helping your students and yourself build networks. Sitting with somebody in the pub or on the bus, this is unreplaceable online. And the idea that we should reduce our travel is very important. But the idea of taking it so far that we break contacts, this is not only a disaster for academics, this is also the best way to war, but that's another opinion. But what I also think is something that was said here before that is very important, namely, this excludes people who can't travel, right? And one of the reasons why we are doing SDSS, for instance, is that people who are joining us here come from throughout the world and throughout time zones, and from institutions that can't afford the fees, just the registration fees from a conference, and they can show up here and build their networks here, right? We also have this idea of these distributed hubs where you can have the online experience and still be around colleagues. Some of the hubs are really big, like I think the Bristol is 20 people. We are like only 10-ish here right now, but you're not alone, so to speak, and you can come and visit, but you can also participate online in this, and I believe this is very important. I also think it's important to realize how networking and mentorship is related. You guys also nicely worked this out, right? That there were people who are taking care of you, and we had this wonderful discussion with Matt about Duckham, about our domain. And I think one of the strengths of our domain is we are smaller than some others, like computer science, and therefore we are a domain of friends. You can knock at any institution's door and find somebody who is interested in you, who is willing to invest in you, right? And final statement, yeah, I know there's LinkedIn. I'm not on any social media, so I don't know a lot about that. But also make it a habit, I think. If you visit somewhere, if you meet somewhere, and they're interesting, foster their career as well, if that's part of the, if you are able to do that. Okay, so you guys are doing really great, and I could listen to this forever, so we are not going to go through all of my questions, so let me jump ahead to one that I think is also quite important. What do you think are key skills in your life beyond academic expertise that helped you along the journey in your career? Simon, should we start with you? This is like question 6. What skills?
Yeah. So that's really so that I've been thinking about that a lot, actually, because I think that it's really important to have other skills there, and some of them I'm lacking, actually. So for example, the social skills of actually making networks, that would be one that I'm actually lacking. But so I would say what helped me a lot in my career was that I'm really able to concentrate a lot on stuff, even if there's actually a lot of stuff going on around me. I don't care. So if my family, is the kids are loud, I don't care. I just can't concentrate on stuff. I think it's also important, has been important for me to be quick in admitting mistakes and accepting failure, and just bluntly saying, yeah, that's how it is, I need to try again. I think it's really important to have a culture, an active culture of mistake and failure, and appreciate that actually, and not basically punish people or being afraid of doing mistakes. I think this is really important. I think what I can also do hopefully is to motivate people. So try to basically get them interested in something, and something that I'm still struggling with, I'm not very good at, I would like to become better, is to understand better people's motives, even though they don't explicitly say why they're doing stuff. That's also very important. So if you can actually guess what people are really want to do by a certain behavior, that's also something really essential, I think. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thanks for sharing, Simon. Kathleen, what about you?
Oh, okay. Well, ideally, time management would be a good one. You've always got sort of deadlines to meet, and you've got to teach class, and you've got to do all these things, and you've got to go to meetings, and you've got to get here and there. And so, being able to manage your time is pretty important, and not, I guess, we are in an age where stress is kind of a bigger, we're more aware of stress. I mean, and sort of the whole work-life balance discussion. I don't know if that's a skill. I think it might be a skill because I'm not sure I attain it all the time. So, understanding what you need to kind of approach your work in a kind of healthy, happy, balanced kind of way. You should prioritize, actually. I think that is important, because you've got to see it's the long game. You're playing the long game here, right? Not, so you've got to set yourself up for success over the years. And so that means, having a schedule that's manageable, and appreciating, and if you need help with time management, what tools can you get that will help you? Because now we live in an age where we have a lot of tools that can help us. And so taking advantage of that. So I think, I think a sense of humor is helpful. You don't want to be hurt when you get those nasty reviews back, and kind of that you can sort of sit back and chill a bit after you recover from, if you get a nasty review, and hopefully you will never get a nasty review. But we get things declined or whatever happens. And so you need to be able to take that in stride. We all have these ups and downs. We have to deal with them, and figure out how we can deal with them best. Having a sense of humor, helps, I think. Is that a skill? I'm not sure. Yes. Yeah.
Sarah, do you want to go next?
Oh, I love this. And I just, support everything what has been said. Thank you, Simon and Kathleen. Yeah, humor is a big one. If everything fails, what else can you have? Humor, it carries you. Okay, so skills. I can just speak for myself. I think what helped me, and I think, Simon, you started with what helped you, right? Sort of like a trait that I have is having, I think, a positive attitude, just generally. My glass is always half full, and that helped me a lot to deal with everything what Kathleen mentioned. Dealing with fails and setbacks and all that stuff. Can you train it? I think you can, and I think that's my tip. Maybe that helped me, because sometimes, with that rejection letter, right? So the half full attitude doesn't help always. So what helped me is to reframe, I think, and I learned this from psychology. So if you reframe a setback into an opportunity for growth, that sounds totally cheesy, but it actually does work, then it's just easier to deal with this. And as Kathleen said, it's a marathon. It's a long run. So sort of training this muscle of sort of, okay, I failed. I admit it, right, Simon? I love what you said. Exactly. It's like, okay, I need to be better at it. I was engaged in sports all my life, also team sports and music in a team. And so there also, it's if you don't fail, you cannot grow. If you don't, practice that thing you're not good at, if it's dribbling a ball or I play the drums, right? Playing the drums, it's like you can't get better at it. So I think that was for me, training at this, what I'm not good at, this has really helped me a lot. So I think the skill to identify where are you good at, that's great. Where then are you not? Where do you fail more often than others? Then try, if it's important to you, then try to practice this. So I think that was important. Then I really also think that language has helped me. Again, growing up in a country that has 4 national languages is just great, but having been growing up bilingual just helped me greatly. I think this is really something that people, and I don't mean Java or Python, I mean French, English, you can access all this literature that other don't have, it's really. And speaking of network and opportunities, just because I can read and speak French, I have to go to all these PhD defenses in Paris. Oh, Paris, how horrible place to be, I tell you. Don't go there. No, kidding. So it's an under-evaluated skill. And when I was going through my PhD, in Boulder at least, that was a requirement. You had to show that you could speak and speak, okay, well, they were lenient on that one, but read in another language. You have to pass a test and to be able to advance to candidacy. So I think that's really an undervalued skill. And I think, speaking of what we just heard, it's not everything is in English. And if it's international and online, it's great to have other languages. I wish I could speak Japanese now, but that's another story. I may be having to learn this. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that, yeah. Let's hear more.
Meiliu, what about you?
Yeah. Oh, I learned so much from all your sharing. I summarize one very specific skills that I really trying to practice now at this stage. Is to ask people good questions driven by your own curiosity. Like it sounds like very specific, but it's not easy to do because it feels like first you have to listen well, adding your critical thinking into the content that you listen to, and then next is adding your thoughts and then interact with that person. I feel like it helps communication a lot, no matter it's academic communication or others. Just you show your sincere curiosity, that helps the communication as well, because like people actually can feel your gestures, expressions, things like this. I just feel like this is so important for daily communication, and I'm trying to learn it and doing better now. Yeah, and it's very helpful to build networks too, going back to the previous questions. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday we had this interview with Matt, and we talked about stuff like knowledge graphs that I should know a lot about, but Matt was able to express this way better. Today we had the keynote from Bernd. We work in a similar area. His talk was so much better than me. Simon looks younger than me, although I think, Simon, you are not. It's so easy to feel like a total failure. And honestly, you guys are smart, and I think I'm not. So how do you deal with feeling that you don't know what you're talking about? And we only have 1 minute for each of you. Let's start maybe with you.
I think, but first, again, this is another good question. I think every time when I felt this a lot first. And I would just, talk to friends and family who think you are the best. Because you need to lean the balance back, right? They think you are the best in the world. So when you think you are the worst, you will get the balance back. So that's my trick. Next.
That's a really, really good one. Sarah.
I just love it. Great. Yes, find your trusted coach, mentor to build you up. So the imposter theorem, pretty much. You are doing it, Jano, right? So don't look at social media too much. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself. Like, again, when you fail, what you fail less maybe now that you did yesterday, or you ask, as you said, more pertinent questions, interesting questions. So I think that helps. Reframe the storyline. This is my answer.
Kathleen.
I think a little bit of that is kind of healthy, actually. You know, go read, you know, like it's like when I realize somebody, I think, wow, that person, they're so on it, they know more than me, then it kind of, okay, then I'll quickly go and read a few articles on something or something. I don't know, it's sort of, it is part of the journey. It sort of, it pushes you forward a little bit. So, you know, as long as you don't let it overwhelm you, you're kind of gonna come up. There are really good people, there are really smart people. That's our world, right? So I mean, the truth is they're really great academics, and you know, you're always going to have that, and we want it, we need it, right? So I think a little bit is kind of healthy, actually.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, just for me, actually, the most important way to deal with this, I also have that, right? Everyone has, is a German idiom. I don't know whether you know it. It's basically, it translates as they also only cook with water. And what that means is, that everyone just uses water to boil for cooking, right? So the means that everyone has are just, you know, the common stuff that you also have. And in the end, basically, there's no magic, right? Also these very known figures, they don't use magic; they just use water to cook. I think that helps me mentally to deal with that.
Fantastic. We really need to stay in time, but there's one interesting question that just popped out in the chat, and I think we can only answer very, very briefly, but I think let's give it a try. So what is more important, and I'm going to paraphrase here, building a quick publication record by staying at the same institution or changing between institutions to improve your academic chances? Any takers?
Easy.
Then tell us.
Yeah, just do what you think you want to do. Don't go by a metric. Metrics change every 5 minutes. What is true today is not true tomorrow. So go see these institutions if you like, if this is what you want.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree. Sorry, no, you go first.
I think just want to say that this is the big disease of our time, right? The metrics. Please, metrics are bullshit. Okay, get rid of them. Forget about them. Okay,
Yeah.
not saying anything. Forget about this bullshit.
Agree.
Yeah, if another place is going to give you more opportunities in your area, go for it. Always, you know.
True.
Well, this couldn't be a better closing for our session, and we are down to a couple of seconds. Thank you so much. I think you have been a wonderful early career session. I feel very humbled, as I said before, and I'm sure all of you guys enjoyed this as well. This is also going to be recorded, or it is recorded already and put online for many of us to enjoy. So thank you so much to all of you. For the rest of us, keep in mind we have a 15 minutes break now, and then we have a really, really great session about reproducibility and replicability. So see you all in a couple of minutes, and thanks to all of you again. Bye-bye, folks.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.